Art-Centric Podcast with Rafi and Klee.
Hola, you amazing artist. It's Rafi.
And Klee.
And today we're going to talk about getting your art into galleries and most importantly, other opportunities that are out there.
Do you want to? How to?
Yeah.
What are the benefits?
Yeah, as a lot of you guys know, when you're doing this whole art career thing, there are several different paths that you could take, right? I talk about it in the Rogue Artist Survival Guide, where it's not about like this trail, this is the way that you do this thing and become an artist, or like this is the path that you're supposed to take, or any of that stuff. The way that I visualized it was there are all these like well-worn paths, right, that other people have taken. But yet, when you look at the full landscape, you've got the entire forest in front of you, and you could literally blaze your own trail in whichever direction you want. And that was the thing that really inspired me when it came to approaching different places to show my art, realizing very much that if I want to do this art career thing, I better be showing my art out there so that people could find it.
Indeed.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about was the realistic way that you approach a gallery, right? There's a lot of articles and videos online on how to approach a gallery, how to get your artwork in a gallery, 100% proven, fail-safe theory. I don't know. One of those things.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they say.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, when I think of the ways that we've gotten into galleries, it was pretty much just kind of like show up, talk to the gallery owner.
Yeah, there were a couple commonalities though that I observed in the successful approach to a gallery versus unsuccessful. By the way, you guys, we have our amazing Rogue Artist community here with us. So if you hear us reading comments, we're talking to them. They are here with us. They'll be chiming in with their questions and their awesome insights and their stories related to this topic.
Yeah, these guys are the reason that these podcasts are so good.
It's true.
So what are the commonalities?
Okay, so one of the things that I sort of noticed across the board when approaching a gallery that they're kind of looking for, that they don't say but they say without saying, if you will, is that they are looking, and you guys, you're going to scoff at this word, okay? But they are looking for some level of professionalism. Cue the eye roll.
You're going to get an eye roll from me.
What I mean is that I noticed that galleries were reaching out to me after I had attained a certain level of a following myself. And after I had certain things in place as far as my presentation and just my overall aesthetic, that's when gallery relationships became sort of easy.
Now, I would argue that I don't know if that does it fall into professionalism? Let's define the word professionalism, right?
So what I mean by professionalism is like sort of having your shit together.
Right. So like not that, because I try to stay away from the word professional, because you and I have experienced this where we had friends that their idea of what it meant to be professional was basically like the cookie cutter way of doing it.
The word is definitely relative. I think what I mean is that they like to see some level of like organization, like you have your shit together, right? Because they're looking for a symbiotic relationship. They're not looking for a one-sided relationship in either direction. Okay. That's the common thread.
I like that, because I think about it and I'm like, okay, so as far as having my shit together, right, what does that mean? For me, it just meant going out and doing shows, and posting on social media and basically letting the community, the area, know that this is what I do. We did a lot of shows. A lot of people became very familiarized with us because we were out doing stuff every weekend. And
You're
essentially,
engaged in self-promotion.
you're engaged in self-promotion. So in my mind, I would say instead of like using the word professionalism, I would say using the word determination. Like, yeah, you want to have your shit together.
You have momentum behind you a little bit.
Yeah, but really, like, how much do we have our shit together?
I mean, okay, so I'll just list off like the qualities, right? The criteria that I'm going for.
Rachel's like, scoff.
Kidding. That you're self-promoting actively, that you have even a little following, I think, that you are consistent enough to be producing work, right? That you're not going 6 months to a year without producing work.
Right.
That's, so you're actively producing and you're actively showing work.
Right.
That you kind of have it dialed in as far as how you're presenting your work, that the gallery's not going to have to do that for you or hold your hand through that process.
Right.
That it doesn't mean you have to fall into the gallery's aesthetic necessarily, but it means you kind of know what your aesthetic is and you have that kind of dialed in as far as how you're presenting your stuff.
Okay.
And honestly, a lot of galleries just like to know that you're reliable, like... You're not going to like ghost out or like expect them to do everything.
I think at the end of the day, for me, it was the mindset changed in the way that I approach galleries when I realized that they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just businesses. Sarah says here, I see a gallery's goal as being able to sell the work easily and that you're easy enough to work with. And basically, that's what it comes down to. I think when you're saying professionalism, it means that you're like, that you're kind of you're on top of things. You're not wishy-washy. You're standing confidently in this thing that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And you're viewing your relationship with the gallery as a partnership, right? Not this preconceived notion that's out there for artists that like the moment that I get my art into a gallery, then I become successful. Then I'm going to be this or what. It's understanding that like you're partnering with a gallery. They're going to do their promotion, but they fully expect you to do your own promotion as well. Mm-hmm. And in that partnership, the consistency of creating the art that goes in there, and also, most importantly, I would say, because this is the part that really did it for me in approaching a gallery, was understanding that, like, not only is the gallery going to vet you to see if you're a good fit, but you need to vet the gallery as well.
Most definitely.
Most times when people are rejected by a gallery, it's not because the artwork's not any good. It's because that gallery doesn't have the clientele that would sell that artwork, right? And it also, it's also maybe they're full. There's a lot of business aspects to running a gallery. So when you approach a gallery, it's almost like approaching them. I think about when I approached Marty or any of the other galleries, and I waited until we had done a lot of shows and that basically we had created our own following locally.
At that point, galleries were approaching us.
Yeah, because at first, I think we approached when we got into town the first time, we approached both galleries that were in town, and both galleries were like, no,
sorry.
And then a third gallery opened up, and we approached that one, and they were like, no.
Well, they were full. They weren't taking on any new artists. One other thing that I've seen pretty consistently across the board with galleries is that they're obviously going to look and see, like, they don't want to have works that are very similar, right? So if they already have a particular style, they may not be looking for other artists that are doing that style. They want to see that your work is unique and benefits the artwork that they have overall. That was honestly the main thing that the last co-op gallery I belonged to was looking to see, that I had a style that was mine and that it would fit but also benefit their overall, what they were presenting as a gallery.
Right. Now, that being said, I wouldn't not approach a gallery if you see stuff that is similar in style, because remember, your artwork is unique.
Yeah, it's minor variances.
It's minor variances. So if you go in and you see artwork that is similar to yours, but not necessarily similar to yours, always, my whole thing is like, approach the gallery if you're interested in being in the gallery. Because you think that the gallery is a good fit. Mm-hmm. But if you get rejected, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You move on to a different gallery.
Our kind of MO was like, well, it doesn't hurt to ask if you like what they seem to be about. And if it's not a good fit, then it's just as well that, you look elsewhere.
So how would you approach, given your experience, Clee, how would you approach a gallery to begin with? When you approached a gallery, not the co-op, but the first time you approached a gallery, what was that like for you?
So I went to the gallery, checked out their aesthetic, right? And basically the first inquiry was, what is the process for an artist if they wish to become part of your gallery, right? That's an open-ended question. It's not a yes or no. So you're not setting them up to shut you down immediately. You're asking, what would the process look like for an artist who wanted to be part of this? And so at that point, they're going to tell you, right? They're going to be like, oh, well, whatever works for them, right? Submit a portfolio via email, bring a portfolio to us, or they might tell you, like, we have a waiting list, but at least it's getting the conversation going.
Yeah.
With Marty Campbell, it was, I have room for a jewelry artist. I would need to see examples of your work. It just so happened that I had been featured in a magazine that month that Marty's gallery carried. So I was able to open the magazine right then and there and show my work.
That was really fun.
That's like a once in a lifetime sort of, like, the stars aligned for me. And he said, well, basically, yeah, as soon as you're ready, start bringing stuff in. When it came to the co-op gallery that I was part of, they had already seen my work because we were neighbors at the farmer's market. But they asked me to basically put a presentation together of, I believe it was six pieces of my work.
It's very similar to like getting into a juried-in show.
And then it went before a jury. And so I was trying to strike a balance between, like, each of the pieces being a standalone, unique piece and also looking good as a collection. And that's a common question, right? If I'm going before a jury for a gallery show or even a contest, should each piece be a standalone thing or should they talk to one another as a collection? And that's a tough decision to make, right? Because you want to show a wide range of what you can do, but you also don't want it to look like it's all over the place.
I think it really depends on where you're at in that particular moment in time. Mm-hmm. Like if you're like really wrapped up in like a big project that's going to require a lot of works, then maybe that would be the aesthetic. Be like, this is where I'm at right now. And you could later on show examples of your past work. But like really when you're thinking about getting into a gallery, especially because the way that there are systems in place for a lot of galleries to run their business because that's just how it's done, right? It doesn't mean that that's how it needs to be done, but it's just how it's done. So a lot of times when they're jurying in, they're looking to see what kind of work you are working on now, what are examples of your work. And so if you are involved in a project, I would actually put together a list of those, 6 of those, with an artist statement that describes that entire project that you're working on at that point in time. And, and also list on there if you want to see examples of other work, of previous work, go ahead and show me.
I chose for my juried pieces, I chose a collection that did show off my range, but also, like, I tried to strike a balance between those two. I felt like as a collection, they looked good together, but they also showed different elements of what I did. The other thing that the gallery was looking for was that I had a pricing system in place that would accommodate their percentage that they were going to take. That's a big one. You have to have a pricing structure set up, even if you have to figure it out right before you start putting stuff in, that allows the gallery to take their cut without gouging your bottom line.
And
right?
we talk about that pricing system in the Rogue Artist Money book, where we talk about having already when you get started, you want to kind of think of like, what is that percentage going to be of that local gallery, and already start adding that into the price, right? Because when I think about it, a lot of us as artists, we don't add in that price of taking the artwork to a show, marketing the artwork, sure, we charge the price of creating the artwork, but what about all the overhead that's involved? And when you're dealing with a gallery and you become a partner, it's almost like that cost goes to them, because now they're the ones promoting the work or doing whatever it is.
And that percentage is going to be usually somewhere between 20 and 50%.
Yeah. So it's a good idea to start really, even if you're just getting started and you know that you're not going to be in a gallery soon, have some type of pricing increase over the years or over the months to get you to that place where if you are approached by a gallery, then, splitting that sale is going to be, it's not going to hurt you. Yeah.
Shan Chan wants to know, what if the jury's local and most local artists are not like you? Is it worth to try to get in? I would say from my experience, yes, if you are interested. The co-op that I belong to was considered to be the most conservative gallery in town. But once I was in there, I realized that they had a really diverse range of works. In fact, I used to gallery sit with a human that did some really out there, like 3-dimensional stuff, and was one of the newest members like I was. And so they were really looking for work that wasn't like everything else that they had, but also that fit, that they felt that they could sell.
Yeah.
So
they wanted me.
They wanted Rafi so much. Rafi wouldn't be part of it.
No,
He was like member adjacent because I was there.
Yes,
but
I was member adjacent. No, I was too busy with other stuff. I didn't have time to like sit a gallery or stuff like that, which is what happens when you join a co-op, because it's a bunch of artists running it.
Yeah, there was definitely time obligations. In fact, I joked that Rafi was member adjacent because he ended up doing a lot of things for them.
Yeah.
Because they were nice people.
Sarah says, galleries in my area only like you if you're known. Well, Sarah, is that true? Have you approached the galleries, or are you just saying that and that's your excuse to not approach galleries?
I mean, that is what we're talking about a little bit when we say that a gallery likes to see that you at least have a little bit of a following, that they're not going to be doing 100% of the marketing for you, that you're doing at least half the marketing for yourself, and that you have people that are interested in your work.
And that's the thing, Sarah. If I know that you're doing shows and you're putting your artwork out there, so you're known to some people, and the more you do it, the more known you become. So again, I'm going to approach that from a place of like, make sure you're not telling yourself some whack story that's going to keep you from doing something that you want to do.
I also want to just touch on like, don't overlook or underestimate the power of like a physical portfolio. So many people these days think that their Instagram is their art portfolio, and I'm like, that just personally doesn't work for me.
Instagram is great, like on the fly. It's great
for showing your work.
But no, I love having physical objects. And to be honest with you, people love receiving physical objects. So yeah, I would definitely print up my own portfolio. And I've done that for commission meetings. I've done that for going to local businesses. I print up a portfolio every once in a while just because I want to have it.
Or at least, keep a folder on your computer that has pictures of the work that you're most proud of, so that you can easily put that in an email. I have yet to have a gallery ask me for my Instagram. A lot of people think that that's just the common practice these days, but honestly, even now, this year, here in our new area, the galleries that were interested in us, they wanted to see our work in person.
Yeah.
And they came to see our work in person.
Exactly. That's the best portfolio, is putting together your own show.
Yeah. So don't rely on your social media profile for your portfolio, which also frees you up to post more than just 2-dimensional pictures of your work on social media.
Kelly said there is an artist gallery near that will only hang his own art. If I owned a gallery, I would hang other artists' art. Yeah, there's a lot of galleries that are opened up. We've been asked if we would open up a gallery where we showed our art, and I just don't want a brick and mortar location that we would be married to. So
Generally, I feel like it's lucrative if you're gonna have the overhead costs of showing your own work at a brick and mortar location to open the space up to at least a handful of other artists.
a handful of artists,
But not everyone does that, and I guess if you have the overhead covered and you're just opening the gallery for your own specific works, then more power to you. You know, if you
Yep.
can do that, that's great.
yeah,
That's essentially what Rafi and I have here, except it's in our house.
yeah.
It's our gallery, it's just our work. We're not having other artists come in and hang their work in our house. It's not to say that we would never open the house up for something like that, but
And that's what we've always done. I don't know that we would, because there's a lot of artwork in here.
We don't really have-
we don't have the
yeah.
space for it. Like, we have designated areas for the artwork that we collect, but mostly the house is my artwork because it is our gallery. And if we're going to open up our space to like a studio tour or something like an open gallery day, then it would make sense for us to have that. Now, we don't have the additional overhead of having a space.
I think my favorite, one of my favorite gallery models, and one that I'm like psyched about having relationships with, are the galleries that feature one artist a month in rotation. So we had relationships with like you with Dolce and Gelato, or us with Graffiti Gallery last year. We ended up having the gallery for 2 months, but in general, they're giving a single artist the space to utilize each month
For a month, yeah.
for a month in rotation. Some people choose to get together with other artists to share the cost and share the planning responsibility, such as we have a plein air group here who they have an exhibition usually in the fall, and they all share the cost and the marketing, and they put on a group show. But I really like that because then it doesn't lock you into a permanent situation, but it's a good way to get your stuff out there in a big way at least once a year or once every couple of years.
And that's the whole concept of the pop-up gallery. Like, I love the
Yeah.
idea of doing pop-up shows, right? And I considered that, like, when I did the show at Dolce and Gelato, when I did the show at Hanson, these are different businesses. Dolce and Gelato is like a bar, gelato record shop place.
So cool.
Really cool. They had a big wall for artwork, and I filled that up. And then really at the end of the day, you're like, reception, the way that it's like throwing a party. So when you think of like doing a pop-up gallery, the way that I've always thought about it is throwing a big party, inviting everyone that I possibly can to this party where we're going to be displaying and talking about my art. But also there's going to be entertainment. There's going to be music. There's going to be music. There's going to be food. There's going to be wine. It basically, you're giving people a reason to go. I love going to art exhibitions, not only for the art, but for the mingling and the drinking of the wine and eating their food.
Indeed.
It's pretty amazing.
Shan wants to know, would it be good to make the 3 picks of work different subjects? I would say yes. Unless there is one subject that you do, like, and that is what you do, then that's what you do. But if you do more than one type of subject, I would definitely try to show a range of things that you do.
Yeah, if you have a range, then show a range. If you want to, if that's the thing that you're mostly working on, really, Shan, it's up to you. Like, you got to remember, like, a lot of people approach galleries as if it's like, this is the holy grail. I have to get into this gallery. And really, at the end of the day, like, everything that you put together in order to jury in for this gallery or to, build a relationship with that gallery is based on how you want your relationship to go with that gallery.
Yeah, that's a piece of the puzzle that we shouldn't overlook, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because when I was showing my collection, yes, I showed them pieces that I thought would get a positive response, but what I didn't show them was pieces that I didn't want to produce for them. right? So there were collections that I didn't want to have in that particular gallery.
Because we wanted people to come directly to us.
So I
for
didn't
those.
show any of that stuff. Or there were pieces that I had specifically for a different gallery that I had a relationship with that I wasn't showing to that conflict of interest kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really like, that's a good question to ask yourself. It's like, what do I want to be producing for this gallery if they accept me? Show them that for
Yeah.
sure. I saw you tour and inventory art that you had in town. What type of places did you approach? Hotels definitely told me no, thinking of trying bars. So we had work in real estate offices,
There are real estate
Closing
offices, a
offices,
closing office, there are
traditional galleries,
cafes,
salons,
salons,
a few restaurants.
a few restaurants. There were some restaurants that would accept art, but there were actually two in particular that were a little too rambunctious, and I was like, I don't feel good. So like, really, it's not just approaching. To be honest with you, approach everyone. If they have walls and there's a possibility of your art being displayed on their walls,
Then it doesn't hurt to ask.
then it doesn't hurt to ask.
But yeah, that was the main criteria, is like, do I feel like the artwork is going to be safe here, or do I feel like there's the potential for it to be damaged? With a bar, I would particularly look at that.
With that bar in particular, there was one, actually both of the bars were like that, where it was like really dark in there. Everything was like that sticky wood color, and I was like, this isn't the place
Probably not.
where I want to display it.
Rafi had work in a hospital. So yeah, the hotels in Pensacola had reached out to the Co-op gallery that I belonged to. They were looking for like a rotating collection from a group of artists. Hotels can be a little weirder, especially if they're a chain hotel. There's like restrictions on what they can have.
If they're a chain hotel, they're going to have like one buyer that basically is going to buy from a known outlet where they could get a mass amount of prints for their hotels. So, but I would still approach like bed and breakfasts. I would approach local like small hotels.
Definitely.
And just because they say no, sometimes they just don't know. And that's the thing. It's like my modus operandi was I would see a place. Oh, they got some walls. This would be a good place to show my art. I would approach them, ask them. And if they said no, I would write them down on a list, and then I would contact them a year later.
Unless they were jerks.
Yeah, unless they were jerks. If they were jerks, then I didn't want to do business with them. But you just keep, just because somebody says no doesn't mean that it's no forever. It just means no right now.
I would say, like, start with the places that you like the best, right? If there's a coffee shop you really dig, and so on and so forth. We had really good relationships with anybody that's associated with real estate, whether it was a closing office or a staging company or like the people that actually show, realtors themselves. Like Rafi kind of had all of that going on, because houses and artwork sort of go together.
Yeah, and a lot of corporate, a lot of those corporate places, they've got blank walls, and like they're gonna be the closing office in the main meeting room. I had 4 paintings in there, and then in all their hallways and in offices where people would come in, there were my paintings with my price tag. If somebody was interested in a painting, my email address was on there. They could contact me, and then I would come in and do the sale. So another thing, if you're going to do it that way, you want to make sure that it's somewhere where it's not going to be a haul, right? That's why I always recommend like local, or at least local adjacent, like in a local town, in a town that's not too far from you, that maybe it's 15, 20 minutes away, where it's not a big deal. And especially if you're like driving out there to sell something. I also eventually started setting it up where we could do the transaction online. So they were listed on my website. So if somebody did contact me, then I would send them the link, and then they would purchase, and then I would give the office the okay that so-and-so is going to be taking the artwork.
That does allow you to do slightly further distances. I would say that our most successful partnerships, like i.e. they felt the best and the most art was sold, was like little boutique coffee shops and restaurants.
Restaurants. I sold a lot of artwork out of one of the restaurants downtown Pensacola.
Not only them, but Dolce and Gelato.
Yeah, Dolce. I sold a lot of artwork as well.
Yeah, and that's just our experience, but yeah, the little cool, like they get your aesthetic and you like their aesthetic, boutique-y, locally owned places.
Yeah.
We had the best relationships with them.
Leslie said, cafes and restaurants are my best alternative exhibition space, and I'm always amazed at what works sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And even the same, like Marty Campbell Gallery is like a, it's not a mega gallery, right? He owns it, he runs it, he cares about us. I would call it like a boutique-y gallery. I had my most big successes there with him.
Sarah says, condos and apartments could probably work too. I never approached condos and apartments. Basically, if I did approach condos and apartments, it was to try and sell prints to them because I always felt uncomfortable having my artwork for sale in a place where it's not being monitored. Maybe talk to corporate headquarters, doctors' offices like dentists, chiro, optometry. Yeah, anything that feels right.
Now, the difference there is like they had built a large condominium complex in Pensacola, like towards the end of us living there, and they were looking for artwork, they were looking for artwork for their commons areas, which was monitored.
Right.
So that was something
yeah.
we probably would have been looking at if we weren't leaving. But
yeah, and I did a live painting there as well. So that's one of the biggest things too, is like whenever there's any kind of events, it doesn't matter. Like it was an event for the opening of this condo, and I was invited to do a live painting there. And so that's the thing, like as an artist, you have the capability of being part of the entertainment, either just your artwork or you doing a live painting or anything like that. And that gives you the ability to expand your reach, and every single one of those opportunities is a free way to promote yourself in front of a new audience.
There's another scenario that Rafi really took advantage of in a great way that worked out for the business and him, which was not hanging work that was for sale, but being commissioned to create work for the business that the business would buy and that the business would own, but that would be an enormous calling card for Rafi.
Yep.
So one of those businesses was a restaurant called Taco Agave. Rafi did like a 8-foot agave field painting for them.
Yep.
It was amazing. It was hung in a very prominent location, and it was like a giant business card for Rafi. Another one was a 14-foot piece that was done for a paper company.
And a lot of people will ask, well, how did you get that commission, right? Because it's like, here's this mysterious thing, like how does an artist get a big corporate commission? Well, it's really simple. Because of all the shows we did, one of the managers that worked in the place knew of my artwork and talked me up to the corporate headquarters, right? Because that person, Chris, had collected my artwork for years, and he met me at the Palafox Market when I was showing my art at the Palafox Market, and in several other places.
Actually, in all instances where we've done something large scale, it's because one person took an interest.
One person.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say here, is that like it was because there was one person. And the reason that one person took an interest is because they met us years earlier
at some podunk art walk.
Some podunk art walk that nobody, that there were some of the people like with Charlotte.
Right.
There are a lot of big projects that I've worked on that Charlotte invited me to because we did the art walk in Fort Walton Beach.
And she met us there.
Which there were like 3 artists there on the sidewalk, like it wasn't, but we met her there the first time, and like we've been great friends since then, and she's collected a lot of my artwork and
Yeah.
a lot of your jewelry.
Same thing with Taco Agave. Same thing with Orin. Orin was recommended by one person. Same thing with the large art installation. We did the huge art installation that we did because one person found one of Rafi's scavenger hunt artworks and wanted to know who the human was behind the scavenger hunt. So don't overlook the fact that like each person that you interact with, even if you're at like this podunk show, you just don't know who they are or what they might be looking for in the future or who they might connect you with. It all comes down to humans.
Yeah, it all comes down to human. Leslie said, offering an exchange of service for hanging work makes for a positive relationship. I offer a DJ set. That's very cool, Leslie.
It's really it's got to be a symbiotic relationship. You need to be benefiting, and so does the business that
Yep.
you're partnering with.
Sarah says, networking, marketing, connecting. It's all just people relationships. Yeah, I know.
I'm still working on my relationship with the word networking.
I mean, those are, and the problem is that it's like networking, right? Because everything is really motivated towards making that sale, towards getting that commission, towards, I'm going to do this. I need to go to this event because I have to network with, and I'm like, just go to the event to meet people. You know, like just go and meet people. Don't have some ulterior motive of like, if I do this thing, then I'm going to get this out of it.
I think that's what Zara's illustrating is like, that is all just meeting people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because that's the thing. It's like every opportunity, everything that you do, right, that you put out there, whether it is approaching a gallery or, you know, getting your work into a gallery or doing a pop-up show or doing a small artwork or doing some podunk little show that like nobody, you know, barely anybody attends. All of it is just you introducing yourself to people as the artist that you are, right? Because that's what you're there doing. You're showing your art. If you're doing a live painting, you're showing your art. If your artwork is hanging somewhere, your art is speaking for you and saying, this person is an artist. This is what they do. And it, you know, the proof is in the pudding. If you're putting it out there, you're putting the artwork out there, then you are
That's hilarious.
an artist.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yep. You like it?
Oh, you know I like it. It makes me really mad when people say, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I want to get into the big leagues art world. They want to do Art Basel. They don't want to do anything that might lead to Art Basel. They just want their golden ticket. And I'm like, sorry, dudes. It doesn't work that way.
I had somebody that was like, I'm going to do Art Basel, and then I got to get into the VIP section, and that's where like all the money is, and that's where whatever. I'm like, really? Okay. So you're going to do Art Basel, which first off, artists don't do Art Basel. You got to be part of a gallery that does Art Basel. Second off, most of it is VIP, right? So you're going to get into this VIP party. Exactly how are you going to get into this VIP party? Third off, why don't you just go and have fun? You know,
there's a novel idea.
Instead of going in there, because people smell that a mile away. When you are trying to take advantage of the system, people know, art collectors know. If you're going in and you're desperately trying to like jump through hoops or impress someone, first off, you leave that situation feeling like garbage, right? Because you think that you have to impress this person to be someone. And there's no reason to do it because it's not going to work. So you might as well confidently put yourself out there, not care, not jump through hoops, but do these things because you genuinely want to meet people. You genuinely want to introduce yourself to the world as an artist to feel more confident in that place.
That's why we're constantly saying, like, if there are spaces and groups and places that you want to be in, circles you want to be in, go first as a supporter of, as a patron. Go, just go. Be in that space. Get to know the people that exist in that space. that's how you meet the people, right? Um,
Shan Shan says, I know it's off topic a little, but is it totally crazy to make show walls with a peg wall? Hubby idea. Well, not really, but
there are lighter weight materials.
yeah,
You want to go as lightweight as possible with show walls.
you really do. You really do.
Which is why we
did the shade cloth. Yeah.
Yeah, Rafi does the shade cloth because it's very strong. Unless you intend to hang extremely heavy work.
Yeah, I'm talking like 120-pound work, because the shade cloth wall could actually handle
Like 50
things that are
pounds.
50 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're over 50 pounds with your work, maybe peg wall is a good idea. But trust me, you don't want to be carrying
You want to make it
anything
easy.
heavier than you need to week after week to
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah, you want to make it so easy that when you're doing the show, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Because if it becomes a big deal and it's like whatever, if you're like, ugh, every time you got to do a show because you know you got to carry some heavy crap, then it's just going to become miserable.
The
So
other thing
make it easy.
there to consider is that shade cloth is going to let air flow through it a lot better than peg wall to keep your tent ventilated. So shade cloth, in our mind, is ideal
Yeah.
for shows.
Sarah says, genuine, authentic, so much easier. Yes, just be yourself. Just go to a thing and be yourself. Don't have some ulterior motive. And that's the thing, like, when it comes to approaching galleries or businesses or people, opportunities, anything like that, like, you want to check yourself. You want to check what's your ulterior. Do you have an ulterior motive? Are you, we have the tendency to turn things into the holy grail, right? So this is important. If I get into this gallery, then I will be someone. Then, and it could be anything. And a lot of times there's you don't even know what they are until you really start to investigate. It could be like, if I get into this gallery, then my mom will get off my case and call me an artist. If I get into this gallery, people will take me seriously. Blah, 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 right? So, like, getting into this gallery now becomes this big, giant, end-all, be-all thing. And that's not the reality of it, guys. None of it is. Getting into a magazine, coming out in a newspaper, you want to get into a newspaper, right? And usually you get into a newspaper by doing some kind of like fun local thing, right? Where you do something that not everybody else is doing. And then you get interviewed and you come out in the paper. And a lot of people think that if you come out in the paper, then that's it. Now everyone knows about you. And, you become... We've been in magazines. We've been interviewed on TV. We've been interviewed on the radio. We've been in newspapers, several newspaper articles. We're not famous because of it.
No, you just have to keep going. I love sometimes when Rafi's brother will talk about, he's a musician and his band plays for massive. They play auditoriums.
They sell out arenas.
100,000 people.
Yeah.
And then he drives home by himself in his car with the radio turned off because it's secretly.
Or he listens to talk radio.
I'm not. It doesn't. Because you have to keep doing it. It's great to have that milestone of playing for an auditorium, but it's not a career-making
Yeah.
event.
It's not. And the truth is that all of those things are bragging rights, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you get into a gallery, that's cool. I've been in three galleries. Bragging rights. Am I in a gallery now? No, it doesn't really matter. I'm in this gallery. We've been interviewed on newspapers. We've, been on TV. We're in a PBS documentary. These are all cool bragging rights, right? But they don't really mean anything. I am an award-winning artist. I have like solid awards. That's great, right? It's that one little thing that you add on that line on your resume for people that need to see social proof.
Or confidence building for yourself.
Yeah, confidence building for yourself, but I wouldn't rely on that for confidence building.
Yeah, you don't need those things.
I would say the thing is that they're set up for social proof, right? A lot of people, that's what they want to see as social proof. But the truth is that as you're doing shows and more people meet you and people see you more than once or more than 3 times doing a show, showing your artwork, putting your artwork out there, that in of itself is social proof enough. And, you know, that's where I go back to that conversation with Sarah where she says, you know, the galleries around here want people that are known. That's how you become known, is by putting the artwork out there.
And meeting people. Yeah, and definitely check your motives.
I like Sarah's like, oh, you guys are artists? I just noticed Rafi's shirt. Yes, for everybody that's listening to this, I'm wearing one of our Artrovert shirts.
They're great.
Which says, Artroverts, unite! We're here! We're uncomfortable! We want to go home and paint.
It's good. I'm actually wearing a local artist's designs. Rachel Stein. Shout out to her. I love
Shout out
this
to
t-shirt.
Rachel.
Yeah, see? No idea. She has no idea that I just promoted her on our podcast.
Exactly.
One person.
One person.
But do keep your motives. It's good to have ambitions, right? Okay, example. You want to exist in certain circles or in certain places, and you go to those places because you would like to exist in those circles, right? But there's a fine line between like desperation and wanting something. And I think it's hard to explain. You just have to know what each one feels like. We've met people that are excited to meet us because they follow us and they're like, I'm going to fangirl right now, and it's fine and it doesn't feel icky because they're just excited, right? Yes, they want to know us because X, Y, and Z. And then we've had people that want to know us just because they think we can do something for them.
Yeah.
And they don't really care about any other facet of it.
And that's why I say, like, it's very transparent. That desperation is very, very transparent to everyone. And here's the truth of the matter, right? Those circles that we talk about, because this will be a big one that I hear from a lot of artists, is that, like, I want to, it's only the wealthy buy artwork, and I want to find a way to get into those circles, right? As if there's like this like circle of just the people in local areas just go to these like wealthy things, right? We have a customer and clientele base of friends that are all walks of wealth, right? From super rich to not very rich. We have friends that are from all circles that collect our artwork. You meet them by doing events. Some of the most wealthy people that we met through doing like small podunk shows.
Yeah.
A flea market. One of my wealthiest collectors found me through the flea market when we started at the flea market.
Another one was walking by while you were doing an outside live painting at a rock concert at like a little like bar in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to know where you meet the rich collectors of art? Everywhere. You meet them at the laundromat. You meet them at, in some local rock show. You meet them while you're doing a show at the flea market. If that's what you're doing, you meet them everywhere. You don't have to get into the VIP section at Art Basel to meet people. And the reason that I'm saying this is that particular artist that said that, he said that 4 years ago, till this day is not broken into the VIP section of Art Basel
that we know of.
No.
Unless he literally broke it.
And the story hasn't changed. It's the same story, right? And I think that when you focus on these ideas that are holy grails, right? That you start to obsess and think, if this thing happens, then and only then will I be successful. You limit yourself because it doesn't work that way. It's basically like scattering marbles. That's what having a successful art career is like just kind of letting them bounce and go in all these different directions, and you have no idea where your art career is going to lead you based on these things that a lot of times we think they're insignificant.
But really, it's like saying that you want to play the Super Bowl halftime show as a musician, but like you're not. But you're like, oh, I don't want to play like any gigs though, like
Right.
or put my like I don't want to go through the trouble of like distributing my music. Like, how the hell is anyone supposed to find out about you?
Exactly.
Or like
Exactly.
you want a New York Times bestseller book, but you're not like putting your book out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It just and that's one of the things that doesn't make sense. Is like, okay, so you're not if you're not showing your art, if you're not putting your artwork out there, if you're not putting yourself out there as an artist, then nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are. And the way that it works is very simple. You do have to approach galleries and you're going to get rejected and people are going to say no and you just keep approaching and you keep approaching and some will say yes and then you do this show over here and you do that show over there and you meet this person and you meet that person and next thing you know, you're starting to build a network of people that are supportive of you. You basically start to create your audience, your fan base, for a poor choice of word.
yeah, your fan base.
Yeah, you start to create your fan base.
Your extended family. Your group of friends.
Shan Shan says, I just worry about success because hubby pays bills and retail job, and I want to pay him back or show gratitude for letting me pursue this.
He'll probably let you pay him back in hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But I get that. Wanting to achieve success not for monetary purposes, which is great, by the way.
And don't add that extra pressure on yourself, because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It really isn't one of those things. You're gonna have moments where we've been doing this for a long time. We have months where I'm like, holy shit, we did really good this month. And then we have months where I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how I could come up with $100 because I am way under on what I need to pay, or I need to figure out, okay, we got to pay for this. What kind of plan do we have in place to be able to do this? And at that point, I start to look, how many times am I showing my art? How much am I putting myself out there? How many people know who I am and what can I do here? And no matter how much of a following you have, you're going to want to keep putting yourself out there. That's the fun part, you guys. And it's like, you got to see it as the fun part. And I know for a lot of artists, I'm wearing the shirt, Artroverts.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, but it's something that grows on you. It's something that really you develop. For anybody that puts themselves out there, it's a thing that you develop. And the only way that you can really develop it is by understanding there's nothing wrong with taking a risk and saying hello. There's nothing wrong with approaching a business and saying, hey, I see you have a lot of empty space on your walls. Do you ever have local art on your walls? Do you ever have local artists put artwork up on your walls? And just asking the questions, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with going into a gallery. It doesn't matter how high-end the gallery is, and approaching somebody and asking them like, hey, I'm an artist in the area and I'm really curious. I love your gallery. I'm really curious on what's the process of me getting my artwork in here. And you just keep doing that everywhere. Just keep presenting yourself as the artist that you are.
Not just for the opportunities that might open up, but do it because it'll make you a better, more resilient person. At least in my experience, I would say that's the most awesome thing.
I agree. The most awesome thing from this whole thing is learning and proving to yourself, I have the right to ask for what I want. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get in trouble. It's not rude of me to ask. I have the right to ask for what I want. I want to have my artwork out there. I would love for my artwork to be in this place. Ask.
Mm-hmm. And in interacting with all kinds of different people over a long span of time, like, I have become the person that I wanted to be. Like, more open, more communicative, all those things. Do it for yourself and who you envision yourself as a successful artist.
I mean, really, you guys, at the end of the day, this whole journey of being an artist is all a journey of self-discovering, really discovering who you are and allowing yourself to be that person. And really approaching galleries and all that stuff, you know, when you're approaching, that's why I say, when you're approaching something from that desperate mindset, it really does not showcase who you really are, right? Whereas if you approach something and you're like, you know what, I've got something that I can give here. And, you know, you have walls, I have artwork. You have this gallery that shows this kind of art. This is the kind of art that I have. You have this empty building space. Well, I'd love to do a pop-up. This is what I'd love to do for you. It's like, I think the reason is that a lot of artists approach it from a place where it's like, oh, poor me, like, look at me here, give me something, versus what can I actually offer here? And I think that that has only really produced itself within me because of the journey that I've taken.
Most definitely.
Norma Jean says, artists create beauty. What good is it if it's not shared? Yeah, I agree. Shan Shan said, Zara, you're the one that called your art your babies. Workshop is cool. Yeah, so for anybody that's listening to this, Clea and I are putting together a workshop in October 10th, for artists.
It's true.
So let me promote the workshop that we were putting together.
That's not what that comment was about, but that's a good segue.
But it did remind me of that. So thank you, Shan Shan, for commenting on something that's not about that.
We are putting together a workshop for October. We're going to go in depth on a lot of the business end of the art.
And that's it, you guys. I think that pretty much covers it all. I would say at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a gallery or if it's a local business or if it's an empty building space. Just there is nothing wrong with asking. The place where Clea and I said our vows and did our marriage ceremony was this beautiful gazebo on Palafox Street, right? Private property. We called the building owner and said, hey, you have this beautiful gazebo. We'd like to get married. You know, is there any way that we could do our ceremony there, even though it's private property? And he said, yes, absolutely. Like, I wish more people would call and ask because it's a beautiful space. And that's the thing. Like, had we been like, oh, I don't know, it's private property and not really sure and blah, blah, and you could easily talk yourself out of anything. Instead of doing that, talk yourself into things. Talk yourself into asking that question, because there's nothing wrong with asking for what you want. And that's it. That's where I'm ending this podcast.
I like it.
So, hopefully you guys got something out of this. Thank you so much to the Rogues for being here. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing, and I totally adore you. And thank you for everybody listening to the podcast. You guys are awesome. Our podcast has been growing in popularity. It's actually quite astonishing to me. So thank you for listening. And other than that, go out there and ask. Damn it. Ask for what you want. And that's it. You want to say goodbye?
Good day.
Adios.